Today on Let's Talk Schools, budget proceedings are well underway for 2025. We'll introduce you to the experts in charge of making sure the district remains fiscally responsible throughout the process. Hello, welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Schools. I'm Mike Looney, the host of the show and the superintendent of schools here in Fulton County. Today we're going to be talking money, and we have the two experts here in Fulton County Schools to make sure that we spend our money wisely and that we're accountable for every dollar that we spend. Mr. DeReef is our esteemed chief financial officer. Mr. DeReef, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Now, how long have you been the chief financial officer?
5 years as the Chief Financial Officer.
And you have this is the person that actually does the work, you just get the credit, right?
That is correct.
Tracy, welcome to the show. Tell us your title and your full name and how long you've been with the district.
My name is Tracy Watson. I'm the Executive Director of Budget and Grant Services, and I've been with Fulton County Schools for 22 years.
Now, between the two of you and your team members, we continue to receive national acclaim and recognitions and awards for our financial stewardship here in Fulton County Schools, and that in large part is as a result of your leadership and your hard work. So first and foremost, thank you so much. The taxpayers can rest assured that you're on the job and we're taking good care of the money that they allow us to use. So I want to talk a little bit about money, and I brought a little prop, a $1 bill. Mr. DeReef, we spend most of our dollars, so from a percentage wise, if I were to cut this dollar bill up, which I won't, how much of this dollar is actually spent in classrooms in Fulton County versus non-classroom expenses?
This year, 78% of our general fund budget is spent in the classroom.
So 78 cents out of every dollar goes to classrooms in the district.
Yes.
And where does the rest of the dollar go, the 22 cents?
The 22 cent goes to a variety of locations. Transportation is one great example. We spend roughly $55 to $60 million on transporting kids, roughly 1 million miles a month to transport the number of students we have in the district. We spend a certain amount, obviously, on things like, we spend safety and security, obviously plays an important role, as we want to make sure our students are safe within the district. As we often say, that is the number one priority. First and foremost, kids must be safe, then educate students, and of course make sure they have the necessary food and nutrition. So that's a major expenditure for the organization.
So Ms. Watson, I know one of the things that you make sure that we do is when we are allocating budgets to schools and we're staffing schools, you make sure, and one of the things that you do many things, but one of the things that you do is make sure that we're assigning the correct number of teachers to every school. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So what does that process look like? Most people think, well, how does that even work? So,
Well, we start with a school allotment guidelines that the board approves each year, and so that has about over 70 formulas that we use to allocate towards
70?
school. Yes, sir.
Okay.
That we use to allocate towards the school. We use an enrollment based and for most of our allocations, they are based off of the enrollment, but however, we do have some allocations that are one-to-one, but we use those guidelines for every school allocation process.
Wow. So 70 formulas to determine how many teachers and staff members a school gets. And I guess that's to make sure that all schools are treated equitably and they're getting the resources they need to be successful.
That is correct.
Okay. Mr. DeReef, I have another dollar bill question for you. Most people are just absolutely stunned when I tell them this. So our funding sources, in other words, every dollar that we receive, we get some from the state, we get from the federal government, some from grants. Break this dollar bill down for me. How much of this dollar comes from local taxes here in Fulton?
63% of our general fund is local. It's local revenue. So the majority of our revenue that we use for operational purposes come from basically property tax owners. And that's not just residential, but that's also commercial. You'd be surprised on how many various tax compensation that we have. Railroad, we get a certain amount for railroad property. Agriculture, very little, if any, though, from agricultural taxes in Fulton County. But most of it is residential and commercial buildings, but also automobile.
Yeah, that strikes me as odd because constitutionally, providing a free and public education is a state function. Is that right? But
That's correct.
the state, but we're funding most of the education here in Fulton County with local tax dollars rather than state tax dollars.
Yes, and 1985 is when the current school funding model is, I guess the last time it was revised and formally created, 1985. And when they created that model, the assumption or a major component of that is that the local has to contribute. But the general rule around that statewide is an 80-20 rule, that 80 would come from the state, 20% would come from a local base. And they institute that by ensuring that we at least allocate 5 mills of our property, of our millage rate towards funding education. So unfortunately for us, that's not where we stand.
Formula's not working for
The
us.
formula's not working for us.
So how much of a dollar that we collect from all revenue sources actually comes from state funding?
33%, roughly 33% is where we stand right now.
So 63 comes from local property taxes, 33 comes from the state,
And a little bit from federal.
and the balance from
Other sources, yeah.
federal government, et cetera.
Yes.
So, Tracy, let's put it in the classroom for a second. You know, these numbers are one thing. Our budget is $2 billion now, so it's a very large, complex budget. But parents are mostly interested, how does all this stuff impact my children in my classroom? So try to personalize this for us. How does the budgeting process work or impact what happens in the classrooms in our district?
Well, we allocate, the number of students based off of teachers that they receive. We also allocate $152 per pupil, so the principals can use those funds for non-personnel dollars in the classrooms. So we have a personnel side and we have a non-personnel side. So the non-personnel side, like I said, was $152 per pupil, and they're able to buy paper, pens, any type of supplies for the classrooms.
And do parents play a role in how that money is actually budgeted and spent?
So every school have a governance that they review the budget every year and they sign off on that budget, and so they can work with the principals and determine what the funds can be used for, and then they sign off on that budget every year.
So aside from getting classroom teachers, Mr. Darif, schools also get, as Ms. Watson indicated, $152 per student, and the purpose of that money is to give some discretionary dollars for buying materials and supplies and meeting the needs of classrooms and teachers. Is that an accurate statement?
That is correct. There's also a flat amount that we also allocate. Also, as a district, we do something different that some other districts may not. A certain amount of the personnel allocations are at the discretion of the school. So they're allowed to convert even some of the personnel allocations that they receive. They can convert that to some non-personnel if necessary. So if they find themselves in a situation, well, the district, obviously our formulas, we hope meet the needs, but we know every school is unique.
Right.
So we allow for that flexibility that some schools may be able to do certain things. Let's say we've given them 10 allocations of a certain personnel. Well, they say, well, wait a minute. I really only need 8 or 9. Can I take one of those, convert it? I really need more material to support the 8
Right.
or 9.
Okay. So they have discretion in how they use their personnel
to convert
dollars.
that as well.
Okay. So I know that transparency and accountability is very important to the public, to the school board, to you as the chief financial officer. What are some of the tools that we use to be transparent in the budgeting process, which we're going through now, but also in how we actually end up spending the money?
That's an excellent question because, one, we encourage everyone to go to Fulton County Schools/budget services, because what we do on that website is as we go through the process, we continue to update the public with both the presentations that we present before the board as well as the documents we use. and we use several documents, as Tracy mentioned, the school allotment guidelines. In that is all the 74 allocations. So all those formulas and information is there. We post it online. We also have our budget book, obviously that 400, 500 page document that we develop and have prepared after we do the major presentation about the budget to the board in April. We also have other presentations. We have a brochure that's supposed to be just quick and easy. You open it up, you know what is our class sizes, how we fund for class sizes, what are the highlights, what are those budget highlights. If the superintendent and the board decided compensation was important, you'll see that highlight of how much we've invested in increasing compensation. So we use that as a tool. We also rely on communications, which does an excellent job of really keeping the public informed on a monthly basis as we go through this process. So every month we're updating the public where we are in the budget process. And then of course, the school board, which is also unique in having their community meetings, which, you know, every school district doesn't have this. And during those community meetings, they invite us to go out and speak directly to their community specifically about what's going on in the budget development process. And of course, we have our wonderful Fulton County Schools TV that really showcases those board meeting presentations.
Ms. Watson, I have a question for you. What's the most challenging part of the work that you do as you complete the tasks in your role?
The work isn't really challenging. I guess the challenging part will come from just trying to get all the information into one place and making sure that we have everything and making sure that the budget is what it needs to be for the fiscal year, for the upcoming fiscal year, and that it aligns with the strategic goals of the district.
Well, you do an incredible job. You obviously have an incredible team that works with you. Thank you for your hard work. What's the most surprising thing that you think people would, if they just knew, if they had a day in time where they got to shadow you in your job, what do you think would surprise them the most?
I guess the amount of time that we actually spend working with principals and bookkeepers and department managers is just not, we do a budget and we're done. We continually work with our schools and our departments to maintain their budget throughout the fiscal year.
Right. We literally count every dollar that is spent.
We do.
Match it against the plan, the budget plan.
Yes, we do.
I am also all the time in awe of the work that you do and how precise and exacting your work is, and that's why we continue to win awards because of y'all's leadership. Mr. DeReef, anything else that you want to share with our viewing audience today about how we spend every dollar in Fulton County Schools?
Well, I think you touched on one important thing is most people, when they think about budget, they just think about the numbers. But you mentioned a key word. It's a plan. As I think about, I did some research years ago in a presentation for a class that I conducted where I talked about the history of funding education. And in this book that I read, one of the things that got me right away is they defined budget. And they define it as a plan with a dollar sign attached. That the budget speaks to what we're trying to achieve, where we're trying to go as an organization. A lot of people focus on the numbers, but for us, it's about the plan. What are we trying to achieve as an organization? And making sure we have the funding or the resources to meet those needs. And as Tracy just mentioned, every day we're having those conversations with our principals and our department leaders. What are you trying to achieve? And let us figure out how to meet those goals and do it in the most appropriate way for the district, right, and being good stewards of taxpayer dollars.
Well, once again, thank y'all for your work, and thank you for being so flexible but unbending about the quality of your work and the ethics behind your work. I remember a colleague of ours once said, what problem are we, or what are we solving for? What are we solving for? And the truth is, a lot of the things that we try to solve for require resources, including money. And you make sure with your team that we're good financial stewards of the resources we're given, that's spent appropriately, and thus we continue to have clean audits and awards from not just the region, but from the nation and across the globe as a result of what the finance department is doing. Thank you so much for watching another edition of Let's Talk Schools, where we talk a little bit about how we spend every dollar here in Fulton County. Thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to seeing you again soon. And now, let's go around the district in 90 seconds. That's it for our show this week. Let's keep this conversation going. We'd love to hear from you on our social media platforms. Join us next time on Let's Talk Schools, and as always, thank you for watching.